It is believed the Blessed Virgin Mary was raised there and received the Annunciation there. By there, we mean Nazareth. So, how did it get to Italy, where the devotion to the Holy House began?
Deep beneath the hallowed grounds of a centuries-old church, hidden from the eyes of the world for millennia, the tomb believed to belong to the Virgin Mary was opened by a team of scientists, historians, and archaeologists. This event, one of the most anticipated archaeological explorations in modern times, sparked both awe and controversy across the globe. For centuries, the location of this tomb had been steeped in mystery, revered by millions as a sacred place. Yet the discovery within was not what anyone expected. Rather than relics or signs of religious veneration, the team uncovered something deeply unsettling, something that shook their understanding of history, faith, and the ancient world to its core. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. The scientists, armed with the latest technology, had meticulously prepared for this dig for years. Initial investigations were done with non-invasive methods, using ground-penetrating radar to ensure the tomb's structural integrity. The atmosphere around the site was tense with anticipation. Excavating a site of such historical and religious significance was not just about discovering artifacts, but also about potentially uncovering new layers of human history. The excitement was palpable, yet there was a sense of trepidation in the air, as though they were about to disturb something best left untouched. The first hint of the tomb's contents came when the team, upon opening the stone door sealing the chamber, was met with an immediate rush of cold, damp air. This alone was not unusual for tombs of such age, which are typically sealed from the outside world for centuries. However, as they descended into the chamber, the atmosphere grew heavier, almost oppressive. The walls of the tomb were covered in ancient inscriptions, some recognizable as early Christian symbols, others a mystery altogether. These cryptic carvings would only be the beginning of the perplexing discoveries awaiting the scientists inside. Instead of the expected sarcophagus or well-preserved remains, the chamber appeared eerily empty at first glance. There were no clear signs of a traditional burial, which is what made the find all the more puzzling. A deeper exploration of the tomb revealed an altar of sorts, hewn from stone and adorned with unfamiliar symbols. Positioned directly in front of the altar was an ancient chest, intricately decorated, its surface marked with designs that baffled the experts. This chest, coated in dust but remarkably preserved, would turn out to hold a shocking secret. As the scientists pried open the lid, they were taken aback not only by the contents but by an overwhelming sense of dread that seemed to emanate from the chest itself. Inside, they found a series of scrolls and relics that appeared to have no connection to the Christian faith or the Virgin Mary. These artifacts bore inscriptions and designs more in line with ancient pagan rites, predating the rise of Christianity. The juxtaposition of these items in a tomb believed to be the resting place of one of the most important figures in Christianity was mind-boggling. What were these relics doing here? And why did they seem to contradict everything known about the site? The scrolls, once unfurled, revealed texts written in a language that none of the scientists or archaeologists could immediately recognize. Some symbols bore resemblance to ancient languages long lost to time, while others seemed entirely alien. This mysterious script added another layer to the enigma, sparking immediate debate among the team. Were these texts warnings, ritual incantations? Theories flew back and forth, but one thing was clear. These writings had the potential to change historical narratives about the region and its religious significance. As more investigations followed, something even more unnerving came to light. Deep within the stone chest, concealed beneath the scrolls, lay a set of objects that defied explanation. These objects, far from resembling traditional burial goods, appeared to be instruments of some ritualistic purpose. The materials used to craft them were not from the local area, and their design suggested a knowledge of metallurgy and craftsmanship that was far beyond what was believed to be possible in the era when the tomb was constructed. Some of these objects seemed to pulse with a strange energy, giving rise to suspicions that they might not be entirely of this world. As the scientists continued their exploration of the tomb, their unease grew. It was not just the strange relics that troubled them, but the atmosphere itself. Several members of the team began to report feelings of dizziness, nausea, and overwhelming anxiety. even though there were no apparent environmental factors that could account for these sensations. Some scientists even reported hearing strange whispers, though they could not determine the source. The further they delved into the mysteries of the tomb, the more it seemed as though they were unearthing something not meant to be found. By this point, word of the discovery had reached the outside world, sparking both curiosity and outrage. Religious leaders, scholars, and the faithful were divided on the issue. Some believed that the scientists had uncovered evidence that would deepen humanity's understanding of religious history, while others saw it as a desecration of a sacred site. But as the scientific team pressed forward, driven by their insatiable curiosity, they encountered yet another, more horrifying discovery. Deep within the walls of the tomb, hidden behind a panel of intricately carved stone, they found a series of ancient drawings and frescoes. These depictions were unlike any Christian artwork ever seen before. Instead of scenes of devotion, they portrayed figures in strange, ritualistic poses, surrounded by dark, shadowy forms. These shadowy figures seemed to exert some kind of influence over the human subjects in the paintings, depicted as towering, faceless entities with elongated limbs. The imagery suggested a connection to ancient myths and legends far older than Christianity itself, tales of otherworldly beings that predate known history. This discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Were these images symbolic of some ancient forgotten belief system, or were they something more literal, a record of an ancient encounter with forces beyond human comprehension? The implications were chilling. If the tomb of the Virgin Mary held evidence of such ancient rites, it raised uncomfortable questions about the true history of the site and what it might have once been used for. Adding to the growing unease, further investigation revealed strange, unexplained phenomena surrounding the tomb. Equipment began to malfunction without cause, with electronic devices frequently shutting down or providing erratic readings. Even stranger, some scientists reported vivid, unsettling dreams after spending time in the tomb, dreams that seemed eerily similar, involving shadowy figures and incomprehensible voices. These experiences led some to theorize that whatever was buried in the tomb, whether relics or energies, was somehow still active, exerting an influence on those who ventured too close. As more artifacts were uncovered, the puzzle of the tomb became even more complex. There were relics that seemed to belong to entirely different cultures and time periods, creating a historical inconsistency that was difficult to reconcile. Some suggested that the tomb had been used long before it was associated with the Virgin Mary, possibly by ancient cults or civilizations that had worshipped unknown forces. Others theorized that the tomb might have been a place of convergence for various religious practices, a crossroads between different belief systems where ancient rituals were performed, long forgotten by the passage of time. Despite the terrifying discoveries, the scientists pressed on, determined to unlock the secrets of the tomb. As they ventured deeper into the catacombs, they stumbled upon a final chamber, sealed off from the rest of the tomb by a heavy stone door. The markings on this door were unlike anything they had encountered before, an intricate network of symbols and inscriptions that seemed to pulse with a strange energy. After much debate, they decided to open the door, hoping to uncover the final piece of the puzzle. What they found inside this hidden chamber defied all expectations. At the center of the room stood a large stone pedestal, upon which lay a strange crystalline object, glowing faintly in the dim light. This object, unlike anything the team had ever seen, seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. As they approached it, the atmosphere in the room grew tense, as though they were standing on the edge of something monumental or catastrophic. The implications of this discovery were almost too overwhelming to comprehend. Could this object be the source of the strange phenomena they had been experiencing? Was it some kind of ancient relic, a tool used in forgotten rituals, or something far more dangerous? As the team debated the next steps, it became clear that they were dealing with forces beyond their understanding. Forces that might have remained hidden for millennia for a reason. The opening of the Virgin Mary's tomb, once thought to be a purely historical and religious event, had turned into something far more complex and terrifying. The artifacts, the strange energy, the unsettling phenomena, all of it pointed to a past that had been buried not just in the physical sense, but in the collective memory of humanity. Whatever the true purpose of the tomb was, It was clear that it held secrets far older and more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The eerie feeling that had pervaded the tomb from the moment of its opening now took on a more concrete form. Equipment failures, strange sensations, and shared dreams were no longer dismissed as mere coincidence. These incidents began to intensify the longer the team stayed inside the tomb, as though the very environment was reacting to their presence. It wasn't long before the team leader called for a pause in the investigation, citing concerns for the physical and mental health of those involved. As the team withdrew from the tomb, taking their newfound relics with them for further study, the outside world's interest in the site reached a fever pitch. News of the strange artifacts and inexplicable occurrences surrounding the tomb had spread across continents. The media swarmed the area. Religious and academic institutions demanded answers, and conspiracy theories flourished on the fringes of public discourse. The debate over the tomb's implications was no longer limited to quiet academic journals or theological circles. It had become a global conversation, one that touched on everything from the roots of ancient religion to the possibility of otherworldly influences on human history. However, the deeper the scientific community probed into the artifacts removed from the tomb, the more baffling their findings became. Carbon dating of the scrolls and relics yielded inconsistent results, with some items appearing far older than human civilization itself, while others seemed to belong to disparate time periods. Analysis of the mysterious crystalline object provided no clear answers either. The material was unlike anything known on Earth, defying every test thrown at it. Neither metal nor stone, it seemed to exist in a state of suspended animation, its molecular structure impossible to determine by conventional means. What troubled the researchers most, though, were the strange properties of the object. Once removed from the tomb, the object had exhibited behavior that further blurred the lines between science and the supernatural. It glowed faintly in the presence of certain light spectrums, emitted a low hum at seemingly random intervals, and most unnervingly, appeared to interfere with nearby electronic equipment. Computers malfunctioned in its proximity, recording devices captured eerie static, and even the scientists themselves reported a growing sense of unease the longer they stayed near it. Theories about the object's origins ranged from the far-fetched to the downright terrifying. Some suggested that it could be an artifact of a lost civilization, one that had developed technologies far beyond those of early Christians or even modern humanity. Others speculated that the object might have come from beyond Earth, possibly left behind by ancient visitors. A few within the scientific community began to whisper of a more esoteric explanation, that the object was a manifestation of some forgotten force, a relic of ancient rituals designed to harness the unknown energies of the universe. These theories only intensified the public's fascination with the tomb. Soon, the religious community, particularly those most invested in the tomb's connection to the Virgin Mary, began to voice their concerns more loudly. Some factions declared the find a hoax, a deliberate attempt to undermine the sanctity of their faith, while others feared that the scientists had unearthed something far darker, a site of blasphemy or a portal to forces best left untouched. Pilgrimages to the site increased dramatically, with believers and skeptics alike flocking to the area to see for themselves the place that had captured the world's imagination. Religious leaders from various denominations called for the immediate closure of the tomb and demanded that the relics be returned. They argued that disturbing such a site, regardless of its contents, was an affront to the faith and could have unintended consequences. Some invoked biblical warnings about meddling with the dead or awakening powers beyond human control, sparking fears that the scientists had unleashed something dangerous, perhaps even malevolent, into the world. The scientists, however, were not willing to abandon their research. Despite the growing pressure from religious and political authorities, they felt a duty to pursue the truth, wherever it might lead. The tomb and its strange contents presented a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rewrite the history books, to uncover hidden truths about early human civilization, and perhaps even to answer some of the oldest and most profound questions about the universe itself. As the debates raged on, the scientists returned to their analysis of the scrolls recovered from the tomb. The language was still mostly indecipherable, though a few tentative translations began to emerge. Some of the phrases seemed to hint at rituals or invocations, referencing shadowy beings and forces that did not align with any known religious tradition. These ancient texts describe ceremonies meant to bind or summon entities from realms unknown, and some of the rituals appeared to involve the use of the very relics found within the tomb, including the mysterious crystalline object. What truly frightened the researchers, though, was not the content of the scrolls, but the growing realization that they seemed to be written in a script that bore similarities to languages long associated with occult practices throughout history. Several scholars began to speculate that these texts were part of a tradition passed down through secretive sects, hidden from mainstream society for millennia. If this were true, it suggested a terrifying possibility that these rituals and the forces they sought to control had existed far longer than anyone had ever imagined. As this revelation sunk in, more of the team members began to question the wisdom of continuing their research. What if these texts, these rituals, had actually been practiced in the tomb? What if the strange phenomena they had been experiencing were not simply quirks of the environment or faulty equipment, but the result of disturbing ancient energies? Some even began to wonder if the tomb had not been a resting place at all, but a prison, a place designed to seal away something that should never have been released. The presence of ancient artifacts from disparate cultures, some even predating human civilization, only added to the growing sense of dread. Historians, archaeologists, and linguists were baffled by the origins of these items. How had they all come to rest in this single tomb? Theories ranged from an ancient form of religious syncretism, where different beliefs merged over time, to the possibility that the tomb had once served as a gathering place for those seeking to control dark primordial forces. Others proposed that the site might have been a center of pilgrimage long before Christianity took hold in the region, where ancient shamans and priests performed rites to communicate with forces beyond the physical realm. As the scientific community debated these possibilities, the tomb's location became the epicenter of global attention. Media outlets speculated wildly, offering theories that ranged from the plausible to the outlandish. Some suggested that the tomb might hold evidence of ancient alien visitation, pointing to the strange properties of the crystalline object and the presence of seemingly advanced technology. Others believed that the tomb was a gateway to another dimension, citing the strange occurrences experienced by those who had entered it. Conspiracy theorists argued that the tomb held the key to a hidden history of humanity, one in which powerful forces had shaped the world from behind the scenes. Despite the increasing media frenzy and growing public fear, the research continued. The crystalline object, still pulsing with its faint energy, became the focus of intense study. Laboratories across the world clamored for a chance to analyze it, but the object remained as much of an enigma as ever. Every attempt to unlock its secrets yielded more questions than answers. Its composition defied every known scientific method, and its behavior grew more unpredictable the longer it was studied. As the months wore on, tensions began to rise within the scientific team itself. Some members argued that they had uncovered all they could from the tomb and should now leave it sealed, while others insisted that they were on the verge of a breakthrough. Factional disputes broke out, with some researchers accusing others of being too influenced by religious or supernatural beliefs. The more pragmatic members of the team worried that the longer they stayed involved with the tomb and its contents, the more they risked becoming entangled in something they couldn't control. The strange phenomena that had plagued the team also continued to escalate. Electronic equipment failed more frequently, strange sounds echoed through the halls of their research facility, and several team members reported vivid hallucinations that seemed to grow worse with each passing day. Some even claimed that they had begun to see the shadowy figures depicted in the tomb's frescoes in their peripheral vision, always lurking just out of sight. This growing paranoia, combined with the inexplicable malfunctions and health issues, only added to the feeling that the team had stumbled upon forces far beyond their comprehension. Meanwhile, the global fascination with the tomb showed no signs of abating. Religious leaders, conspiracy theorists, and ordinary citizens all clamored for more information, each hoping to uncover some greater truth behind the mysterious discovery. Some saw the tomb as a challenge to their faith, others as a confirmation of their long-held suspicions about hidden forces at play in the world. The more fantastical theories gained a life of their own, with believers claiming that the tomb was a portal to another world, or a key to unlocking the mysteries of the universe. This suspicion was bolstered by the growing realization that the artifacts found within the tomb seemed to come from a wide range of cultures and time periods, as if the tomb had served as a central repository for ancient and possibly forbidden knowledge. Many of the items recovered had no direct connection to the region or to any known civilization from that era. Some of the symbols carved into the stone walls of the tomb resembled ancient languages and iconography associated with lost civilizations, while others bore no resemblance to anything known to history. Some team members began to hypothesize that this site may have been a gathering place for ancient cults or priesthoods from different parts of the world, each contributing their own relics, rituals, and secrets to the hidden chambers beneath the earth. Further complicating matters was the apparent link between the tomb and an older pre-Christian belief system. Historians on the team began to notice recurring motifs in the inscriptions and carvings, motifs that pointed to the worship of forces older than the gods of the Christian faith. These symbols, while unfamiliar to modern eyes, shared similarities with depictions found in distant parts of the ancient world, from Mesopotamia to the distant reaches of the Americas. The possibility that this site had been an ancient center for the worship of unknown deities grew more convincing with each new discovery. For many on the team, the most troubling aspect of the tomb was not just its historical implications, but the very real physical and psychological toll it seemed to be taking on those who entered. As the excavation continued, the strange phenomena that had plagued the early stages of the investigation intensified. The sense of dread that had initially been dismissed as psychological stress now felt pervasive, affecting even those who had previously been skeptical of the more mystical interpretations of the site. Several members of the research team began to suffer from nightmares, some reporting the same vivid, recurring dream of shadowy figures lurking in the tomb's corridors. The figures in these dreams seemed to watch from the shadows, faceless and menacing, their presence becoming more palpable and threatening as time went on. Others reported hearing voices, whispers that seemed to come from the very walls of the tomb, although no source could ever be identified. Some of the team members even began to experience physical symptoms, unexplained illnesses, fainting spells, and bouts of disorientation. A growing number of researchers expressed concerns that the tomb might be cursed, or that they were dealing with forces beyond human understanding. It became difficult to dismiss these fears, especially after several incidents where equipment failure coincided with particularly intense experiences of dread or physical discomfort. Even seasoned archaeologists, who had worked in similar tombs and sacred sites before, began to question whether they were dealing with something truly unique, something dangerous. The scientists overseeing the excavation were at a loss. On the one hand, they were uncovering evidence that could reshape human understanding of ancient history and religion. On the other, the strange and increasingly dangerous experiences were becoming impossible to ignore. Theories about the tomb's true purpose became more speculative as the physical and psychological toll mounted. Some team members argued that they were dealing with a highly sophisticated ancient technology, perhaps an energy source or device that they did not yet fully understand. Others speculated that the site had been a ceremonial location designed to harness and manipulate forces not recognized by modern science, forces that could be the cause of the disturbances. As the pressure mounted, the excavation slowed, and the research team decided to consult outside experts, not just from the fields of archaeology and history, but also in the fields of physics, psychology, and even esoteric studies. Scientists and specialists from around the world were brought in to examine the relics, the strange crystalline object, and the increasingly peculiar occurrences surrounding the tomb. Among these experts were those who specialized in the study of energy fields, frequencies, and phenomena associated with unusual archaeological sites. The crystalline object in particular became the focus of intense study. Its strange behavior, emitting faint energy, disrupting electronic devices, and causing inexplicable sensations among those who came into contact with it, became the subject of much debate. After months of analysis, the scientists were still no closer to understanding the true nature of the object. It appeared to defy all known principles of matter, and no one could agree on what purpose it might have served in the tomb. Some theorized that it was a conduit for harnessing energy from the environment, possibly used in ancient rituals. Others argued that it might be an artifact left behind by a lost civilization, one whose technology surpassed anything known in the ancient world. Meanwhile, the scrolls discovered alongside the object continued to pose a riddle of their own. Linguists and scholars spent months attempting to translate the texts, but progress was slow. The language, though similar to known ancient tongues, was distinct in ways that made it almost impossible to fully decipher. What little could be translated hinted at rituals involving the summoning of entities from other realms, beings that, according to the scrolls, had once been revered as gods or powerful intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds. This discovery led to even more unsettling questions. Was the tomb meant to be a place of worship where these entities were summoned and venerated? Or was it something far darker? A prison designed to contain dangerous forces that had once threatened the ancient world. The notion that the tomb might have been a place to keep something sealed away was reinforced by the presence of the mysterious crystalline object. If the object was indeed tied to these rituals, then perhaps it served as a key or a seal, preventing the return of the entities described in the scrolls. As word of these findings spread, speculation in the public sphere grew ever more intense. The notion that ancient beings or entities might have once walked the earth and that they could somehow be tied to modern supernatural phenomena captured the imaginations of people across the globe. Stories of these beings began to appear in tabloids and on social media, with some claiming that the research team had uncovered proof of gods or extraterrestrial visitors. Others, more grounded in conspiracy theories, believed that the government was involved in a cover-up, trying to suppress knowledge of the true nature of the tomb and the entities it supposedly contained. Religious leaders, for their part, were deeply divided on the issue. While some continued to call for the tomb to be sealed and the relics returned, others began to entertain the possibility that the site might hold significant spiritual or even divine importance. Some sects believed that the artifacts could be tied to apocryphal stories from their faith, while others insisted that the tomb had nothing to do with the Virgin Mary at all, but was instead connected to an older, more obscure religious tradition that predated Christianity. Amidst all this speculation, the scientific team continued their work, though with increasing caution. They became aware that they might be dealing with forces or phenomena beyond what they were equipped to handle. Some members of the team grew paranoid, refusing to stay in the tomb for extended periods of time or declining to handle the crystalline object. Others left the project entirely, citing concerns about their safety or mental well-being. The scientific community at large began to take notice of the growing body of evidence suggesting that the tomb was not a traditional burial site, but rather a place of ritual significance. The increasing number of strange occurrences surrounding the excavation led some scientists to wonder if they were witnessing a rare case of archaeological resonance. The idea that certain ancient sites could have an ongoing influence on the physical environment due to the energy or emotions imbued within them during their use. This theory, though controversial, gained traction as more experts from various disciplines weighed in on the strange happenings associated with the tomb. Theories about the tomb's function expanded beyond mere burial practices. Some researchers began to postulate that the site may have been a focal point for early religious or esoteric practices aimed at manipulating forces not yet understood by modern science. There were those who speculated that the tomb might have served as a portal, not to another physical location, but to another dimension or realm of existence. This idea, once relegated to the realm of science fiction, gained surprising traction given the inexplicable phenomena observed by the research team. Could the tomb have been a site where ancient peoples attempted to communicate with or even summon beings from another plane of existence? This line of inquiry led to further study of the strange markings and carvings inside the tomb. Experts in ancient symbolism were brought in to examine the walls, and they began to identify similarities between the tomb's markings and those found at other ancient sites believed to have been used for spiritual or ritual purposes. The recurring motifs, the shadowy figures, the ritualistic poses, and the strange geometric patterns suggested that the tomb was part of a much larger network of sites used by ancient peoples to access or manipulate spiritual energies. The implications of this were staggering. If the tomb was indeed connected to an ancient belief system that sought to bridge the physical and spiritual worlds, then the discovery of such a site could rewrite humanity's understanding of ancient religion and spirituality. What had previously been dismissed as mere myth or superstition now seemed to hold a kernel of truth, a truth that the ancient peoples of the region may have known, but that modern society had forgotten. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what's your reaction to the discovery in the Virgin Mary's tomb? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.